Cody's in count one, correct? Cody's the victim, alleged victim in count one?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, if it says Cody, both, it should say Matthew in count two. It's two separate alleged victims here, okay?
Is it Matthew Wilson, or what's his last name?
One was Cody and one is Matthew. Both have Wilson as last name, correct? Yep. Thank you for that. Any other objections to the preliminaries? Okay, opening statements, Ms. Jip?
Thank you all, and I'll try not to eat up too much of your time, but what I need to spend a few minutes doing is kind of laying out a roadmap, because you'll hear quite a few names mentioned, and sometimes if you're not in the thick of it, it's hard to kind of keep everything together. So there is a piece of property on 10th Avenue in Gobles, that's actually Bloomingdale Township, I believe, and on September 9th of last year, it was evening time, and a woman by the name of Tristan has several young children. She lives in a house within this, I plan to admit it's so we have kind of this piece of property off 10th Avenue, which was at one point owned by one family.
Ms. Chip, I'm sorry, but I'm getting word we're not picking you up. Maybe if you could move the,
I just want to get cozy.
there you go. Sorry for the interruption.
I know it's a tiny picture, so that's part of why I got super close to you guys too. I'll back off and give y'all some personal space. But so you can kind of see here, hopefully, and I'll put it on the big screen later. You'll see there's several residences there. So as time passed, the land just was parceled out to different family members. One of those family members is a gentleman by the name of Matt Wilson. He is married to Cody Wilson and is cousins with a gentleman by the name of Dave Beatty. Dave Beatty lived within close proximity to the Wilsons. They kind of grew up together. Dave was married to a woman named Roxanne. Also on this property is the woman I mentioned, Tristan, who is Cody's daughter. Tristan has her own children, making those Cody's grandchildren. They kind of live at the top of a little horseshoe here. Dave and Roxanne split up. Dave ends up with Roxanne's best friend, Tabitha, who is the defendant. And Tabitha and Dave, after leaving the property for a time period, end up coming back and living on a camper kind of behind where the wife Roxanne lives. So there's a little bit of tension, I would argue, just as a result of that dynamic of this one partnership splitting up and then everybody still living in close quarters. So on the evening of September 9th, Tristan's children are trying to sleep, and David Beatty and his friend are riding a motorcycle down the horseshoe and up this way and causing a bit of a ruckus. I believe the testimony will show that they were driving rather recklessly. This leads Tristan to call her mom. She's upset. I don't know what to do. This kind of crap can't keep happening. And Cody and Matt come down to try to address the issue. Matt, having this long-standing relationship with Dave, thinks that maybe they'll be able to dissipate it. Well, you know, it's a Friday night. People have been drinking some beers. And so instead of it de-escalating, it escalates a little bit, and it gets into this kind of bit of a screaming match. Tristan has a brother, Logan. Logan also, his mother's also Cody. He ends up being called to the property to help de-escalate things. He comes in, he tries to de-escalate, and ends up taking a handgun and shooting a couple rounds into the ground. And that kind of, I would argue, the testimony will show that it kind of did the trick of like, all right, okay, yeah, we don't need to talk about this all night. Logan then leaves, but in the process, shooting those rounds into the ground leads someone to call 911 and say, I don't know what's going on, but I just heard gunshots. So at this point, Trooper Valier is already dispatched to the address. Now, Cody and her husband Matt end up walking away, back towards their property. So away from the horseshoe and over to this general area. In the process, Dave drives away, and Tabitha, instead of following him and driving away, comes back out of that driveway and into Cody and Matt's driveway. And what I believe the testimony will say is in too fast of a manner for what you would expect someone to pull into someone's driveway, and drives quite close to Cody, and throws it into park and comes out and hits her in the head with a metal pipe that we believe is maybe used in like a jack. So it's about this long. You'll get to see that today too. Now, the defense is, you could tell through the questions we were asking, I think asserting a self-defense claim here. Cody, Matt, and the defendant, Tabitha Howard, are the only ones that were present for the actual physical assault. So there was a whole bunch of moving parts over here when it was just like a verbal argument about driving recklessly up and down the driveways. But now it's whittled down because it's dissipated, and Cody and Matt are on their property when Tabitha stops right by where Cody is. I believe there was some speculation as to whether Cody threw rocks. The testimony today is going to be she didn't throw rocks at her car. There's no apparent damage to this vehicle from rocks. She does admit that the car got so close that she actually hit it. She hit it with her hand, like, come on, what are you doing? We were just fighting about this. And that's what led Tabitha to come out. So I believe the evidence will show here today that in no uncertain terms, this was not self-defense. You were at point B, the victims, Cody and Matt, were heading back to point A here, and you chose, instead of going back to your residence, to back up and follow them and start a physical altercation. So there are injuries on both sides because Cody was hit in the head with a pipe and she wasn't going to just take it. I'm not saying that she never fought back. Matt does have to actually intervene and separate the two. In the process of separating the two, Tabitha comes at him with a pipe. He's able to kind of block it as he kind of bats her away. And so he's struck on the forearm with this metal pipe. And that's why we believe there should be 2 counts of felonious assault. A pipe might not seem like a dangerous weapon in terms of traditional sense, a gun or a knife, but it could cause serious injury, and so we do believe that it is considered a dangerous weapon the way that the defendant Tabitha Howard used it on September 9th.
I'm sorry.
This happened last time too. Apologize for that. That's essentially the roadmap. You'll hear from a couple witnesses today. We'll try to move quickly. You'll hear from Tristan. You'll hear from Cody Matt. We'll see pictures of injuries. We'll see pictures of some property damage that happened. We'll see the lack of property damage on the vehicle driven by Ms. Howard. But I hope by the close of tomorrow you can go back into the jury room and feel very confident in your hearts and in your minds that this was not a situation of self-defense, that this was very much an unprovoked attack, and find Tabitha Howard guilty of 2 counts of felonious assault. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mechek, did you care to make an opening statement? Okay.
Buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride. We have a whole cast of characters. The prosecutor outlined the characters, the individuals involved, but we can say it boils down to Team David, Team Wilson. There is a love triangle on this property, this compound, so to speak. Throughout the summer, there's been drama surrounding the love triangle, so to speak, which could be expected, of course, with a married couple who ultimately strays. Now, that night, there were arguments to the point that a gun had to go off. Not once, not twice, I believe about 8 times a gun was fired throughout that night to disperse a crowd who was having a verbal argument, setting a tone almost. And you will hear from Tabitha, Miss Howard, the defendant. Tabitha, upon hearing these gunshots, is curious what's going on. So she drives down, and there was that, the map, but she drives down the drive to where the gunshots were, where David was, her boyfriend. David was with the Wilsons in an argument, of course, and upon arriving to that verbal argument, Tabitha's there, she's in her car, and then David is almost backed up against the wall, we can say. But those gunshots did do the trick. The crowd did disperse, but it wasn't over. Tabitha leaves that area, David's trailer, and to go back to her residence, which is on the same property. There's an easement or a trail, so to speak, that she took that would go to her residence. It wasn't off the beaten path. It was a direct route to where she needed to go. That was also where Cody Wilson and Matt Wilson were. They were walking. It's a dark night in September. Tabitha's alone, and then the Wilsons are together, obviously. Tabitha did stop her car, but when she stopped her car, there was nothing more than to ask a question. What's going on? What's going on, Cody? What's the beef? Because remember, it's Roxanne who's the love triangle. That's Roxanne, Tabitha, and David, not Cody. So why is Cody mad? Ultimately, Tabitha's in a situation where she's alone, in the dark, with 2 individuals approaching her. And that's why you're here, because of what happened next. And the testimony, you'll hear from Cody, you'll hear from Matt. I just ask you to pay attention. Pay attention to their demeanor, pay attention to what they say, and consider it when making your decision. And I believe that after all is said and done, when you consider what Tabitha went through, what she was perceiving, I do believe that you will find her not guilty of both counts. Not guilty of an assault against Cody Wilson, an assault with a weapon. Now this weapon, let me go back. It's described as a pipe, but it is a handle to a jack that would be in a car. That's the weapon. It's not a pipe that she pulled off of a wall or whatever. It is the handle to a jack of her car, in her car. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vita. Ms. Jip, you may call your first witness.
We would call Tristan Null, and I was trying to text to see if she could get it. I don't know if that happened. Sorry, Jared.
That's okay.
It might just be fast for you.
Okay.
I apologize.
The United Constitutions provide a right to trial by jury. Serving as a juror may be a personal sacrifice.
If you raise your right hand, I'll swear you in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Thank you. Please have a seat. I'm going to make sure you put that microphone close to your mouth so we can all hear you. And then once you're comfortable, we'll have you tell us your full name and spell the last, please.
My name is Tristan Null, Null.
Thank you. Ms. Jip?
Thank you. Try not to topple this over. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. I had an opportunity to kind of talk briefly with the jury about what we can anticipate discussing today. If you could, tell me where you live.
I live at,
And could you just describe what kind of dwelling you live in? What kind of building?
I live in a one-story house.
Okay. And who lives in that house with you?
It's me, my boyfriend, and our 3 children together. Well, his 2 children and my son that I recently adopted.
Okay. So you have 3 kiddos in the home, your partner, and if you could just kind of describe your neighbors and kind of the lay of the land where you're situated.
There was a block house that was built on the property. That was the original house that started off on the property. My house was the house that was built later on. And then we have a shed behind my house that was recently built like 2 years ago. And then there's a camper that sits in the way back of the property.
Okay, in the way back of the property.
Yes.
Anybody else live right there around you that you know?
Roxanne Barr lives in the block house, and then a drive over my parents live.
Okay.
And
Would it help you if I showed you kind of a map of the lay of the land?
yes.
Okay. And, Your Honor, I believe there's no objection from defense in terms of admitting this as an exhibit, because I believe it'll be helpful for all parties.
No objection. The court will receive People's Exhibit 1.
So, obviously, I tagged it with a little red arrow in there. Google did that for me. Do you mind to just step down and kind of help show me where things are? Okay.
Do you want the pointer too? And then just make sure she's by the microphone.
Okay, if you don't care to kind of just point out where the key players live. Can you guys see that? Okay. Ideally be a little bigger, but.
So this would be my house.
Okay.
This would be Roxanne's house. Roxanne Barr. And then this drive leads to my parents' house. They're right there, that's their house.
And then where does Dave have his area?
So this would be where the shed is on that road, and if you go down this drive, it starts from here next to my house and goes out back. Around right here would be where the camper was sitting.
Okay. And that's back in September 9th of 2022. His camper was kind of back in the right upper corner of the property.
No, it's that right about here.
Okay. Kind of where you see the opening with no trees now. Okay.
Right.
Thank you for doing that. Why don't you just leave this here in case somebody sees it? Okay. So what specifically was going on the evening of September 9th that had you concerned?
So we were having a normal time sitting in the living room, kids were playing, and Josh Roy had drove his motorcycle through past that little drive by my house. A little not my kind of liking, fast. It was loud. My kid's window is right next to that drive. So I always made it a big deal to,
Can I stop you really fast?
Yeah.
About what time of day was this?
I want to say between 7 and 8. It was getting dark. It wasn't like dark out. So like sunset,
Okay,
beginning of dark.
okay. So a little bit past dusk maybe.
Yes.
And you indicated Josh Roy drove by. Who is Josh Roy to you and the parties we've heard mentioned so far?
He's a family friend. Grew up with my stepdad and my mom. His mom was best friends with my stepdad's mom.
Okay. So Josh is driving his motorcycle.
Correct.
I'm sorry, you were kind of telling me about that.
So he drove in the back, not my liking, fast, stuff like that. I indicated I don't want people driving past that way because there's other ways to get down there. There's actually 4 ways to get down there past my house. On the side of the block house, there used to be a clearing where you could drive back there also. And then there's 2 going up the drive where my parents live. So I got up, I went outside, and I yelled out back and I said, if you guys drive past my house like that again, I'm going to call the cops.
And was it the recklessness or the noise or a combination of both?
A little bit of both. It wasn't the first time we've stated that we didn't want people driving that way, just because on school nights, the kids go to bed about 8:30. So usually it's all through the night driving through there. So I didn't want anyone, loud cars, stuff like that, to wake the kids and stuff like that.
So this happened, you kind of said, hey man, you keep doing this, I'm going to call the cops.
I'm going to object. This is, I believe, leading. This is direct examination and objective leading.
I don't know that that's leading, but just be mindful of it. I'll overrule that objection.
So you indicate, you say, hey, I'm going to call the cops. What happens next?
So my boyfriend had, well, Dave drove up reckless. He was doing, like, our driveway is a horseshoe, so he was driving around that fast. Like, there was so much dust and dirt flying, and then he started doing donuts in the middle of the yard, and then pulled his Jeep up on the side of the island and stopped. So my boyfriend had went out to talk to him because our kids play outside, and usually we are outside with them, but we don't tend to, they only play in the front yard because of all the garbage around. So they only stay in that area, and Josh went out to talk to him, like, you can't be doing that. What's the problem?
Did tensions seem to get heated at that point, or?
Dave started yelling towards Josh. Usually he gets upset, not instantly, but it builds up. Like, because it's his property, so it's his way or no way. So Josh just wanted to reassure him of the children being there, and it was ongoing problems.
And what is Josh's connection today?
Same thing, grew up together. always been around each other their whole lives.
Okay. So Josh thinks he can reason with them. Does it seem to work? Do people kind of chill out and go their separate ways?
Well, I called my parents up. Matt and Dave also grew up really close. They were more like brothers than cousins, I think. So I called them up.
Now, let me stop so I can understand clearly the timeline here. Your boyfriend, Josh, goes out to confront Dave.
Yes.
Do you call your mom, Cody, and stepdad, Matt, before that, or?
I called after.
Okay. Why did you call after?
Because I told my mom that I didn't want things to go further because that is like Josh's dad. It's the only man who was in his life when he was growing up.
Dave is like Josh's dad?
Yes, that's Dave and his mom are married.
Okay. This is where things get. Dave and Roxanne married.
Yes.
Who is Josh to both of those people?
Roxanne's biological son, Dave's stepson.
Okay, okay. So your partner
Yes.
is actually Dave's stepson.
Yes.
Okay. And so he goes out to confront his stepdad?
Yes.
Okay. And then you call your mom and stepdad.
Correct.
And your stepdad is Matt Wilson.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And what happens next?
I called them up because I didn't want Josh and Dave getting into a physical fight, because they had altercations before where it almost went that far. So I didn't want them to get into a physical fight. So when I called my parents up, I didn't think that everything was going to escalate as quickly as it did.
Okay. So from when you called them in this first Josh and Dave conversation, how long until Cody and Matt were able to get to the scene?
Maybe in a minute. It happened quickly.
Okay. Because they just live.
Right there is a trailer that sits between our property and my parents' property.
Okay. So they were able to walk there.
Yeah, right through the neighbor's yard.
Okay. Was Matt able to calm Dave down?
No, it got physical. Matt did punch Dave in the face. They were talking a lot of back and forth, just little things to get each other mad.
Okay. Dave throw any punches or do anything?
No, I don't think so. I think he threatened to call the cops on Matt.
Okay. Okay. So instead of it having the desired effect of calming things down, it kind of made it boil up and over.
Yeah, it was a one hit and done. I got in the middle of it. My boyfriend got in the middle of it. We helped Dave find his glasses to kind of like cool things off, get them separated. It wasn't like a keep going back and forth.
Okay. Was Tabitha Howard there at this point?
I do believe so.
Okay. Was Cody there?
My mom was there.
Okay. Was your brother Logan there?
My brother Logan was there.
Okay. And at what point did he end up firing his gun?
Logan fired the gun when the altercation was happening. He did fire it into the ground to kind of assess the situation, but
Do you remember if that was before or after the punch?
it was after.
Okay, it was after that, like, okay. When he fired the gun into the ground, what did all the parties do?
Everyone kind of freaked out and panicked. Josh had to go assist the kids because we had our kids inside plus a family friend child in the house too. So the kids were all being nosy. And so Josh went in to assist. I also went in because when the gun went off, it did scare me.
Okay. At any point, did you see Cody or Matt with a weapon?
I did not.
Okay. Did you see your brother Logan hand his firearm to your mom or dad, Cody or Matt?
I did not.
Okay. After Logan fired those shots, did he stay there on the scene or?
Logan did leave with the gun. He did come back a little while after. And then he left again. He took his child with him because when my mom came up, my mom and Matt, they had his son Elijah,
Okay.
and he was brought into my house.
Okay. And so that second time Logan came back was to take his son off the property?
Yes.
Okay, so Logan leaves. You think at this point it's Dave and, or let me ask you, who was outside in that area still?
It was Dave, my mom, Cody Wilson, Matt Wilson, and Tabby was there. She was in her car though, the whole time.
Okay, so she was in her car the whole time this altercation is going on?
Yes.
Okay. So at what point did parties separate?
Parties separated. My mom was sitting and she couldn't breathe, so we got her a drink. I was advising her to go home because she was still going at it, running her mouth and stuff. So I advised her to go home because I didn't think it was a good idea for it to keep going on. Stuff happened. There was no need for it to continue. So I advised her to go home, and then Matt came over to also get her to go home.
So you said she was sitting down and you got her drinking water. Was she still right in the thick of it?
She was by the,
I'm going to hand you this. It might be easier for you.
yes.
But if you could just kind of talk about what you're doing, because we can't always see exactly where you're pointing.
So this side of the driveway was where Tabby was parked, right by this little tree in the island area. Right in front of it was where Dave was parked, and over on the side of that driveway there was a truck that sat there with 2 logs in front of it. So my mom was sitting on a log. So we were over here trying to get her to leave, and
Okay. And when you said, I think your words were she was going after it, or I don't know how, was she making threats of hurting anyone? Or what do you mean when you say that?
There was just a lot of smack talking. I don't recall her ever threatening anything. She just kept saying little remarks to kind of get the blood boiling. Stuff that would hurt people, like their past history and stuff that they went through.
Kind of throwing it in their faces?
Yeah.
Okay. So you get her water while she's sitting on this little log pile a bit removed. Does Dave leave?
No, him and Tabby sat there for a little. My mom eventually got up and left. Her and Matt were walking. They walked through the neighbor's yard to go down to their house. Me and Josh, we were still outside waiting, making sure everything was still cordial. And we were sitting there talking for a second. When we didn't see my mom and Matt no more, we figured everything was good, and we decided to go inside.
So did you see Dave and Tabby leave?
I was actually still looking out the window when I went inside, and they were still sitting there for a second. It was maybe for a couple minutes. And then Dave went on the side of my house to go out back. And
Make sure that I'm understanding how everybody leaves. So, kind of, Cody, your mom's over here kind of on a wood pile,
correct,
and so Dave then moves his vehicle from this horseshoe and starts to go this way?
correct.
Did you see Tabby leave?
Tabby backed up out of the driveway and
On this side or this side?
the left side.
Left side of the horseshoe, she starts back down the driveway?
Yes.
Okay, and where does she go?
She goes down the drive that my parents went down to.
So down on 10th Avenue and then up into their driveway?
Yes.
And then is that all you have to contribute for the evening, or did you see or witness anything else?
I didn't witness anything further than that.
Okay. Were you made aware later that evening that your mother had been hit?
Correct. I guess my stepdad, I can't say this, but he told Roxanne to
Okay,
come and
you
tell
don't
me.
have to say who told who what.
Okay.
How did you first discover that your mom had been hit?
Roxanne came to my window and.
So Roxanne?
Yes.
Okay. And then, did you see a police presence?
No. At the time that she told me, there were no police that arrived to the scene yet. When I was told, I ran out the door, and by the time I started running to go down between the neighbor's yard to get to her, a cop actually pulled up to my driveway.
Okay, came towards your house?
Yes.
Okay. And were you able to help direct him to where your mother was?
Yes.
Okay. So you didn't call law enforcement?
No.
Okay. Thank you. I don't believe I have any other questions.
Thank you, Ms. Meacham.
Hi.
You're related to the Wilsons, correct?
Yes.
Cody's your mom,
Yes.
and then Matt would be your stepfather.
Correct.
And then, what would David Beatty be, technically speaking?
I consider him family.
Like an uncle?
Kind of, yeah. I never called him uncle, but family, yeah.
Okay. So I'm just trying to get the dynamic.
Yeah.
And you indicated Matt punched Dave in the face,
Correct.
and after the punch to the face, gunshots, that's when the gunshots were fired?
Yes.
And you mentioned also that Cody, your mother, was running her mouth,
Yes.
talking smack.
Yep.
Was she talking smack to Tabitha and David?
It was a little bit of both.
To both of them?
Yeah.
Would you say that she was more focused on Tabitha?
Yeah, probably. I mean, my mom probably isn't gonna try and argue with Dave. He is hard-headed.
And when you say, by running your mouth, talking smack, would you perceive that your mom was mad,
Yeah.
angry,
Yeah.
pretty worked up,
Yeah.
talking a lot of smack?
Mhm.
Was she talking smack to anybody else?
Not that I can recall. I was not really paying attention. I guess I was more paying attention toward her and my mom going at it, Tabby and my mom talking back and forth. Well, Tabby didn't say much. She called my mom the B word. I told her not to call her that, and that was it.
So is it fair to say that Cody was more or less leading the smack talking?
I guess.
Because Tabby was quiet, for the most part.
Yeah.
Did you notice or did you observe your mom make any advances towards Tabitha at that point in time?
No, I was a little all over the place. I was trying to make sure that my stepdad wasn't doing any more damage that was already done, on top of my mom just arguing. It's a lot going on, and usually when she argues, she just says a lot of stuff and nobody really cares to listen, kind of.
If you were to describe your mom in one word, what would that be? Or you can use two if you need to.
In that situation,
That works.
probably heated, angry. There was a lot going on. She was upset about the situation that my kids live up there, and we were dealing with a bunch of drama throughout the whole year, pretty much.
And that drama, was it related to the Roxanne, David, Tabitha drama?
Yeah.
Okay. And you indicated that you were concerned about reckless driving.
Correct.
Reckless driving is dangerous?
Correct.
A 9mm handgun getting pulled out and shot into the ground is also pretty dangerous.
Correct.
Did you have any words with Tabitha that night?
No, besides telling her not to call my mom the B word.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jeff?
She asked you specifically how you would describe your mom in that moment. How would you describe her typically?
My mom, she's usually always caring. She gives people a lot of chances, which annoys me sometimes, because, I mean, in situations that happens where they do something off the walls that shouldn't be allowed a second chance, she lets it happen.
Have you seen her be assaulted?
I've never seen my mom get assaulted.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Ms. Meachek?
It's fair to say your mom has a temper.
I wouldn't say a temper. I know sometimes she'll get into an argument, not long lasting. Usually if it involves her kids, grandkids, stuff like that, it can usually get aggressive, temper-wise.
And that night, at that point in time, she wouldn't, or she wasn't calming down.
No, not necessarily. But she also couldn't breathe, so there was really not it wasn't long lasting for her to keep arguing when she was up there sitting on the log. She couldn't breathe. She has lung issues, so it wasn't really getting nowhere with her running out of breath, her voice not really coming out. So I just advised that she shouldn't continue doing it because there was no point.
And you're the daughter,
Correct.
advising mom to settle down, so to speak.
Correct.
Thank you.
Ms. Jeff?
No further questions. Ms.
Okay.
Fisher.
Jury, if you have any questions of her, just raise your hand. Anyone? No? Ma'am, thank you. You may step down. Is she excused from subpoena, counsel? Or do you want to keep her under?
I think she needs to stay under subpoena at this point, just given the way the burden of proof shifts.
Okay, so you're done for now, but you're still under your subpoena, okay? Thank you.